Welcome back to Novel Idea. My name is Dia, and today we are doing a week in review. So it's actually been a little over a week since I recorded one of these, so I've got a few more books than I would normally have to go over with you. So we're going to jump right in so that this doesn't get to be too long. All right, so the very first one that I finished up was The Charmed Children of Rookskill Castle. This is by Janet Fox. It is a middle grade book. It is a very gothic feeling sort of story. It's about three children that are evacuated from their home to a castle slash boarding school in Scotland, and their father is an undercover agent for the government in Britain, and they don't really know that, though. They just know that he is a soldier and that he is being called away to the war. And so they go off to this castle and of course meet other children that have also been evacuated, and some very strange things are happening. And this oldest girl in the trio of siblings finds it on her shoulders to help solve what is going on and to keep the other children safe. And so it was a wonderful story. I really enjoyed it. I gobbled it up. It was a very quick read, and thought that it was just really wonderful. It supposedly has some like continuation stories because of some things that happen right at the end. You kind of expect that, but I don't know because I haven't looked into it. So if I look into it and find out that there's more in this world, in this series, then I may very well read those ones for middle grade March. The next one that I finished was for K-Tropathon, and it is Escape from Camp 14. This is by Blaine Harden. It's one of his first novels that he wrote. I think it was like his third. I think he has, and it's not a novel, I'm sorry, it's nonfiction. And I think he has 4 or 5 more out since then. I have read it before, and I will say that if you are somebody that needs to look up trigger warnings, then please, before you read this book, please make sure you do that, because I think this has just about every trigger warning you could think of. Content warnings are a must for this book. It's very hard to read. Because I had read it before, I kind of knew some parts that I didn't want to read, and I quickly skipped over those in this read. It is about a young man who grows up in North Korea and is put into an internment camp along with his family, his mother, and just all of the horrors of that, and then escaping and all of the horrors of that, and finally making it to America and being able to get an education and have a solid family life for a while before he was an adult. And so harrowing story, very difficult story. Really glad that I could reread it and reopen those passages of compassion with the people of North Korea. And it really does that for you. Blaine Harden does not pull any punches with this book, though. The next one is the Posthumous Memoirs of Broskus. I read this with Tiffany from Beautiful Minutia and Una from the Codex Cantina, and I wish I could say I loved this book. I loved parts of this book. I loved aspects of this book. We are following the life of a man who is no longer living. His ghost is telling us his life story. And he, because he is dead, does not feel the need to doll up any of his story. He's not dressing it up. He's not putting on airs. He is just telling us like it was, but also being very almost flippant about it. And he's also being silly at times. And you wonder if he was, you know, descending into madness when he was writing it, or if he just has a really good sense of humor, or if he really was that naive and didn't really care. There are just so many things about it that you really sit and think about and contemplate, and yet at the same time you laugh. And it was a good time. I just don't know how high of a grade to give this book. I think it was masterfully written. I really do. In order to conquer some of the subject matter that he did, and to do it in a way that was palatable, and to do it in a way that made you want to sit and ask questions. I think Machado deAssis was incredible in his performance of getting this out there for us as an audience. But I really didn't like the main character at all. I don't think we're meant to, though, and so that's another thing that I think he was just masterful at. So I think I'm probably going to settle on an A- for this one. And I think that just about the time I would feel like the pacing was starting to kind of, you know, slow down, and that maybe there was going to be some problems, it would just be right back into it again. And so I don't really have any complaints other than he's just not somebody I wanted to read about. And I wish that there would have been something redemptive about it, but there wasn't. And yet I don't feel the way that I do a lot of times when I walk away from a story that is just unredemptive in its characters. So to give it an A- was quite a feat for Machado deAssis. So anyway, yes, that was the posthumous Memoirs of Broskus. I went on to read Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson. This is a reread for me, and I really love this story. I think it's probably one of my favorites of his like standalones, and I'm not sure it's going to remain a standalone because he is still writing Cosmere books. But this is the story of two sisters. There are more sisters than that, but this is only telling us the story of two of them. They are of royal blood, and one of them has been promised to a king of another country close by, and in order to keep from going to war, she has to marry this king. But her father doesn't want to give her up. And so he actually sends his youngest daughter, who has not prepared in any kind of a way for marrying a king or becoming a queen. And she goes off to do this knowing that she is preventing a war in doing so. Unbeknownst to both of them is the underlying plot of some of the country's counselors to go to war in spite of the queen or the princess becoming queen of their country. And has all kinds of little twists and turns, as Sanderson is so good at. And this one actually makes me laugh. Sometimes I find his sense of humor is not very funny, but this one does make me laugh. I just really enjoyed being back in this world with these sisters and the rest of the company that they keep. So yeah, Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson. Then I buddy read with Kelly from Kelly Reads a Lot. I read The Extraordinary Deaths of Mrs. KIPP by Sara Brunsvold. Everything will be up on the screen. And I didn't know quite what to expect getting into this. It is a Christian author. It is written for a Christian audience. And I don't normally love Christian fiction. I find it very formulaic. I find it covers the same tropes. Oftentimes the doctrine in them is way off base. And so I just usually have a very hard time with Christian fiction. This was not one of those books. This one, I still felt that it had a little too much Christianese in it. People that have not grown up in the church, that don't understand the speak, it's going to be hard for them to kind of wrap their minds around, much like those who don't read classics are going to have to take some time to kind of get into the language of the classic. It would be the same thing with this. And there were some things that happened very conveniently, but other than those two things, this was a well-written story. It felt like it very much could happen in real life. It did not end up with anybody in a romance, which was refreshing, because if you know anything about Christian fiction, that's usually what happens. And I just really, really enjoyed this. It's about an elderly woman who is about to die, who has led a very exemplary kind of life, but not exemplary in the perfection of it. It's exemplary in the imperfection of it. It's just this beautiful story of this woman who is dying and a reporter who is assigned to write her obituary while she is still living, and to write it in a way that gets to tell that exemplary story. And it was wonderful. Both Kelly and I walked away going, this was a good one. We can get behind this book. So, The Extraordinary Deaths of Mrs. KIPP. Then I read Snow and Rose, and this is by Emily Winfield Martin. And it is a reimagining of Snow White Red Rose, which is a fairy tale. I think it's a Grimm's fairy tale. And Snow White Red Rose is actually quite a dark fairy tale, and this one is much brighter. The beauty of this one is the family aspect of it. And I like Emily Winfield Martin's books. This one I really liked. I thought it was absolutely wonderful. it's a short one. It doesn't take very long to read. I picked it up on a whim. It was just one that was available when I was at the library, and I'm so glad that I did. It was really, really good. She also does all of the art in the book, and that endeared it even more. It was just wonderful. So it's about two sisters, Snow White and Red Rose, and they have a very happy, very loving family until one day their father disappears. Everybody says he is dead. They do not believe that. And they have to go live somewhere else because their father was the nobleman. And so their mother and they go to live in the woods. And in the woods, there are some things happening that should not be happening. And they work together to figure out what is going on and to not have anything else hinder their family. And I loved it. I read Greenwich, which is book 3 or 4 in The Dark is Rising by Susan Cooper. And this is one of my ongoing series that I have been reading. And it is a reread, but I have not read these since I was a kid when I read them the first time. And I'm loving being back here. I love the first one. The first one is Over Sea Under Stone. And then the ones that I've read since then, I haven't been as excited about. It didn't feel as intense or as just thrilling as the first one did, but this one actually did. I really liked this one a lot. We see some characters from previous books coming together in this one, and it was just wonderful. Loved it. Quick read again. Did it in a single day. And so Greenwich by Susan Cooper. And then I read The Wishing Game. This is by Meg Shaffer. The Wishing Game has been really going around on BookTube since it was released. It is a very new release. When I heard the premise of this book is when I got interested in it. And I'm trying to remember who reviewed it. May have been Talia over on Bandana Book Mom when she was talking about, I think it was a book of the month for her. And so anyway, it is about an author who's a recluse and has his own private island, and he has not written a book in his series in a very long time. A girl who is now an adult is a teacher's aide on the opposite side of the country and has a young boy that she is trying to adopt, but she just doesn't make enough money. And when she was a young girl, she made her way to this private island to meet this author because his books had meant so much in her life, and they had been writing letters back and forth. So now that she's all grown up, this author has announced that he is writing another book, that there is only one copy in existence at that moment, and that somebody is going to win that book. So she finds out that she is one of those because there's only been a handful of times that someone has made their way to his island, and she is one of them. And she is hopeful that in winning this game, if she wins, that she will be able to adopt this young boy that she has been wanting to adopt for a couple of years. So it is predictable, but it is also fun to read. I did not expect to like it that much, but it's one that I'm going to be thinking about. It's going to stick with me. I just really liked it. I liked our main character so much. She was a person of virtue. She was a woman of compassion, and yet at the same time, she wasn't somebody that was a pushover. She had to do some forgiving and some apologizing, asking for forgiveness herself. Really great found family aspect to it. It was so good. It was so good. I liked it so much. So, The Wishing Game by Meg Shaffer. All right. I did have one DNF. It's not really a DNF. I set it aside because I was enjoying it so much and it was due back at the library. And so I just made a decision. I'm going to be looking for this book, and then when I get it, I can annotate and read it from the beginning again. And that is A Swim in the Pond in the Rain by George Saunders. And it is a nonfiction. It is about writing. It is about writing short stories in particular, and it is using Russian masters of short stories as an example of what to do and how to do it well. So, A Swim in the Pond in the Rain. Okay, so currently I am reading Thunderhead by Neal Shusterman. Finally! Tiffany and we've been trying to do it for like 3 months, and we finally got to it, and I'm really happy to be back in this world. 14 chapters is about what we have gotten through so far, and I am loving being back. And then I'm also reading Flawless by Elise Hu, and this is about the Korean beauty industry. K-beauty has become kind of a global phenomena, and this is looking at kind of its inception and why it's such a big deal, and what you can trust about it, just those kinds of things, and I'm really enjoying the book. I am also reading Napoleon of Notting Hill. That's by G.K. Chesterton. Just picked it up this morning, so not much to report. Also just picked up this morning Outlaw of Sherwood, which is by Robin McKinley. And so far we are with Robin Hood, who is Robin of Locksley. We are with Robin as a young man, and he has already lost his father. And so we are just it's kind of his little bit of the backstory prior to him becoming the Outlaw of Sherwood. Those are the 4 that I'm currently reading. I feel like I'm forgetting one, but oh well. Oh, I did forget one. I read a book called Temple Alley Summer, and this is by Sahciko Kashiwaba, I think. And this is a middle grade, and it is a translated from the Japanese. I can't remember the name of the translator. I'll put the picture up here, or put the name of the translator on the screen, something, so that you can see it. But Temple Alley Summer is about a young boy whose family is living in an old house, and the house is haunted, and he is the only one that can see the ghosts. And he begins to make friends with one of them in particular, and it's basically about his summer going to camp and the ghosts tagging along with him. And it also has a story within a story, and it also has a curmudgeonly old grandmother. I love elderly Asian women. They crack me up. And so, anyway, this one was no different. It was a good one. I didn't think I was gonna like it at first, but I came around and I did enjoy it in the end. So, can't believe I forgot to tell you about that one. Sorry. Okay, now I'm done. Thank you for joining me today, everybody. I did want to talk to you really quick about letting me know some questions that you may have. Everybody would like me to do another Q&A. I haven't done one since the 150 subscriber video, and the channel has reached 500. I'm not even sure when it reached 500 because I really don't watch those kinds of things. And so when I saw that it was over 500, I thought, oh, I wonder how long it's been there. But you all told me that you would like another Q&A. So if you would leave me some questions in the comments, then I will happily sit down and do another video. And if you want my husband in on it, then I will ask him. I don't know if he'll do it, but I'll ask him to sit in on it again with me. You guys all really enjoyed having him. He's much funnier. I understand. So yeah, let me know in the comments below or over on the community tab. I will gather them up and we'll do a Q&A for my 500 subscriber count celebration. So thank you so much for joining me. It means the world. I love having this community. I love being able to chat with you in the comments. I love being able to create videos where I'm talking about things that I love. And so it's important to me that you guys are here. I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your week. I will see you again very soon with another video. Like if you liked it, subscribe if you want to. Bye everyone.